We can both speak on stage. We have a lot of similarities in how we see life and our values and all of that's so easy. But it's the unsexy stuff that every couple has to work through, which is the day-to-day of how are we going to run a home and how do we keep things organized. You know, I'm an ADD neurodivergent girly with a lot of weird energy, and I'm calming down a little bit as I get older. But this guy who loves Excel spreadsheets somehow fell in love with me.
People are shocked that there's enough time in their Google Calendar to do everything that they want to do, because you know what people don't put on there? Scrolling Instagram for 2.5 hours a day.
If you were to walk on stage to a crowd full of only entrepreneur couples and you could just give them one piece of advice, what would that be?
Love it.
Today, we have Angie Lee and Clay Hebert in the house. So if you guys haven't had the pleasure to meet them yet, Angie went from being a college and corporate dropout to hosting popular live conferences, co-founding a multi-million-dollar health and wellness company called Soul, and she shares a lot of wild and entertaining information on her podcast called The Angie Lee Show. And Clay is a keynote speaker, a marketing strategist, and just a genius when it comes to growing businesses, and has been a part of growing wildly profitable businesses across many different industries. And we are so excited to have them both on the show. So Clay and Angie, how are you guys doing today?
We're good. Today's kind of a crazy day, but it's good.
That's awesome.
All right. Well, we like crazy.
Yeah.
It's like crazy.
You know what? Crazy is a good thing, I think. Yeah. So let's just dive into it. We have some questions that we want to ask you guys that I know a lot of entrepreneur couples could probably relate to, especially because both of you have had success individually, but also, you know, you run this life together. So we're so excited to dive into the crazy yet fun mess that is couplepreneurship.
Yeah, and I think we'll start there. So you two, at least from our perspective, have wildly different personalities, I would say. Just like a lot of couples in business, right? And we love tuning into Angie's antics on Instagram. Where on any given day, she could be talking about, PG-13, buttholes, baby grandmas, enemas, and a lot of other fun things. Clay, you seem to have a very different personality. So my question for you is, what is it like navigating those two different personalities, both in terms of like how you run your businesses and how that shows up in your relationship dynamic?
Yeah, it's actually really interesting because obviously Angie is definitely an extrovert online, Instagram, you know, everywhere, making jokes, comedy, etc. And then in her real life, because she expends so much energy online, in her real life, you know, we both have a ton of friends here in Austin, and we do like to go out and do things. But on any given night, I'm out. Like last night, I was like playing pickleball for 3 hours and then going to see my friend's comedy show on the east side at 11 o'clock at night. And Angie's more, you know, stayed in. So it's interesting. The balance is really sort of yin and yang, but in both ways. Angie's an extrovert online, a little more of an introvert in real life. I'm more of an introvert online and more of an extrovert in real life. So that's kind of how it plays together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree. I mean, he said it perfectly. The brand that people see online, it is me. It's authentically me. I'm super weird. I'm super unhinged, super inappropriate, probably just talking about random buttholes and things like that. But, you know, when I'm not on, like I'm very particular about my energy. I don't like networking events. I don't love meeting new people. Like I'm at home, or I'm hanging out with my girlfriends that I know, or I'm on walks, I'm in nature. Like I'm very selective about my time and my energy. And so I think I'm realizing as I'm getting older, I think I'm an introvert more so, where I don't enjoy going out and meeting new people every weekend, where Clay really enjoys that and gets energy from that. So we're actually different than people think we are in real life.
That's interesting. I'm just out of curiosity, have you noticed that shift as you guys have grown businesses? Like maybe the more that you're in the public eye, the more you're interacting with people within your businesses. Have you noticed your personalities kind of shift a little bit?
I don't think we've changed a lot. I think there's definitely a adjustment to like being able to, you know, in a partnership versus being single. I've always been this way. I've always wanted to go out and do things or whatever. And then sometimes certain people want to and certain people don't. And Angie expends this energy So we kind of have this, we came up with this thing early on in our relationship because we were both, this was before COVID, but we were both going to do public speaking events, this and that. And we had some early on in our relationship where it was like, okay, this, Atlanta, this and that. And it was a fairly new relationship. And we came up with a pretty good, because there's like, hey, do you want me to come? You're going to speak in Atlanta. And we just, we're a month or two into dating or whatever. And then I was going to San Francisco and she's going to these other cities. And so there was the question of like, do you want me to come? And then there's the female sort of question of like, yeah, but are you just saying that? Or do you really want me to come or whatever? And so we came up with a pretty useful sort of blanket rule, which is unless it's like a guy's weekend or a girl's weekend or a bachelor party, bachelorette party, if it's just another thing, the automatic rule is you're always invited. You're never required to come. So like if I go speak in San Francisco, she's happy to, I mean, she's always invited to come, stay in the hotel, do whatever if she wants to, because now we have a dog and then it's dog sitting and coordination and just protecting her energy. She's like, I don't want to get on a plane next week. Like knock yourself out. You go do your thing. And so that rule has served us well because then we don't have to have the conversation every single time. So there's things like that. We're coming up with these kind of like systems and rules that we think are fair, that 10 minutes of coming up with that removes infinite future conversations of like, but do you really want me to come to New York? It's like,
yeah. That's great.
I love that. And that's very practical for any couple that's watching, because I know Ariel and I have been in situations where me being a little bit more on the extroverted side, Ariel being a little bit more on the introverted side, there have been times where she might have felt pressured to have to like put on the extroverted face and go to things. And I love what you guys said, because you can create a rule in advance saying, hey, you're always invited, but you're never required. And that's such a level of respect that just allows that request in the future to never be met with resentment or anger or anything like that. So because you brought that up, I'm curious to know, and maybe Angie, I would love to hear from you first. Do you guys have any other rules like that you put in place to make sure that you protect each other's decisions, energy, happiness, all the good stuff? I'm curious to hear your thoughts.
That's so interesting that you said that, because I was thinking when you were saying that's something that we're constantly working on. And we have realized, seen the best couples have like, what's the word? Systems, I guess. Systems and rules, even though
she had to search for that word. That's how much she loves. She's like, what are they called? Systems?
No, actually, I know I'm writing a new identity for myself now in my 30s. So I am not afraid of systems. I'm not afraid of rules, because they allow me to then be able to be free. Because if you don't have some containment, you're just feminine chaos. And so that's something I've been studying and looking into a lot lately. So we've actually been talking about that lately. Like, okay, what are more of the systems that keep our life smooth, so then we can have the freedom to go play and to go do these things. And so I'm trying to think of another one we've been either talking about or that we do really well. Like something at night. This is so silly and simple, but every couple lives together. A huge part of you living together is your stuff that you have to keep organized. So we had a couple friend that they're an amazing couple. And one of the things they do is called tidy 10. So sometimes instead of saying like, well, did you do the dishwasher? Did you do the dishwasher? It's like, okay, for the next 10 minutes, go ham. Everything has a home. We say everything has a home. So we just go ham in the kitchen and we just like clean up everything. And that's made it where it's not resentful. It's like, okay, tidy 10. We just need to tidy 10. Cause I can notice with my energy, as I'm like all the things I never wanted to be in my 20s, but now I'm like, I want to be organized. I want systems. I want to be inside all day, or like, not go to parties. I want the house clean and organized for my brain. And so instead of getting mad at him and saying, hey, what the heck, this is dirty or this is messy, I just like take a beat. Can we just tidy 10? Can we just
tidy 10?
That's been a good one, right?
Yeah.
That's one of ours.
Yeah. Another one is back to the introvert extrovert thing or whatever. For a little while, Angie would be like, well, you like pickleball more than me because you're going to do that thing or whatever. And like on a given random Tuesday where I decide to go play pickleball, she's like, well, I sure would have liked a date night tonight or whatever. So I'm like, let's talk about what quality time looks like, how much, what date nights, et cetera, who takes turns scheduling date nights. And like, this is maybe more a masculine frame, but like, if you give men a playbook and a scorecard that they agree with, and you be like, this is the job to, I want one date night a week and then 2 nights a week this, and then I want to watch one Netflix movie or whatever that playbook is, men can, if they have that going in, schedule their week around it versus like, hey babe, I'm going to play pickleball. And you're like, oh, like in the moment, so that's another thing too, is like, we wrote down what does good connection and quality time look like. If we can agree on that, it's maybe my job to make sure that we achieve that, and pickleball doesn't, ding into that. But that way I don't have to feel bad as long as I achieve it by the end of the week, plan the date night, etc. And I don't have to feel bad or guilty about going to pickleball or seeing my friend's comedy show.
Yeah, I mean, I love that because, for a lot of couples, quality time can mean one thing to one person, but a different thing to a different person. So really taking the time to define what quality time looks like is huge. And I love the tidy 10 principle as well. That's a really cool little practical nugget.
Do it. Tidy 10 tonight. Just say for more tidy 20. Sometimes the house needs 20, but like just see how much you can get done in those concentrated.
But like the kitchen, if we're 10 focused in the kitchen, it doesn't take more than 10 minutes to like load the dishwasher, empty the dishwasher, whatever. And you can like, talk or put on a podcast or whatever, but like
music, make it fun.
Tidy is the result, 10 is the duration, and it never seems overwhelming. And if I'm like starting a meeting or starting a Zoom call, it's like, can we tidy 10 after your call? Sure. Let's do it then. It makes it feel, instead of feeling overwhelming and resentful, we both want a clean kitchen. So it's just like, boom, get it done.
Yeah. I think systems, and if you want to play the game, you have to first know what the game is. And Clay's been really good with that. Like he brings that to the relationship where he's like, instead of me feeling this sense of like, oh, well, I feel like I haven't seen him enough this week because he's been out doing pickleball or going to events or, living his best life, which I want him to. We have very healthy individual lives, but I then will start to be like, well, I just want him to sit and watch Netflix with me. So then I'll get kind of like pouty and mad. And he's like, okay, take a beat. Let's define like what is enough? Because if you just say to someone, spend time with me, well, what does that mean? That means that 10 minutes? Is that 5 hours? Is that a week trip? Like that is kind of elusive. And so I think especially the male species, as I've been studying this species, I go out into the wilderness every day and I study this species out there who is they're a lot simpler than we think, right? Which is beautiful. I love that you guys have this linear brain. It's like, he just wants to know, hey babe, it would mean a lot to me if every Friday from 6 to 8 or whatever, like we could do this or go out or watch Netflix or whatever it is. I don't care if we're at home or we're out. I just want to feel like I know I can see you every Friday night. Like he wants that. He appreciates that because then his brain can relax into, I can check it off and know that like I'm not behind, or I didn't, he wants to win. Men want to win the game. They want to make you happy. A great man wants to make his woman happy. And so, but we make it so difficult sometimes. We're like, give me this. And we just like throw it at them and puke it on them and expect them to just like, okay, what?
I'm not going to tell them, but tomorrow the touchdown was only worth 1 point. Watch this. like, no, we want to know the rules of the game.
So I'm working on that. That's one of the things I'm working on is like, it's okay to schedule date nights. It's okay to schedule intimacy. I mean, that's something we've learned from one of our friends who's a really big sex and intimacy coach. People think, ooh, that takes the sexiness away. It doesn't. It actually keeps it consistent, just like workouts, just like anything else in life. That you're like, oh, I'm so glad I did that, even though I was like tired or whatever. You're so happy that you built that momentum. And so I'm realizing that like systems can be sexy and they actually help a relationship. And so that's kind of like the season we're in, is like working on that before kids. So we feel like we have some rhythm to things.
I love that.
Systems can be sexy.
It sounds like a t-shirt right there.
Yeah, you can trademark that.
Yeah, you got it. You heard it here first.
Yeah.
Well, since you guys mentioned, like how you approach a lot of the responsibilities in life that are outside of the two businesses that you're a part of, I know that for Ariel and myself, when we had our separate businesses, one of the biggest points of tension for us was deciding, okay, if both of our time is extremely valuable running companies, who is going to be the one to do the dishes, do the cleaning, do the errands, talk to, the house cleaners, the housekeepers, or just manage the day-to-day life like finances or tasks or admin or anything like that. Yeah. So because that was a point of tension for us, I'm wondering if that has ever been a point of tension for you two. And I'm curious to know, even with being a part of two separate businesses or multiple different businesses in one relationship, how do you guys go up about dividing roles in the household and in your life?
Why don't you start?
Yeah, no, why are you laughing? He's always laughing at all these questions. This is like therapy for us. I feel like in full transparency, I think that's the biggest thing that we are working on. We've especially I mean, gosh, I in a good way, I think like I've changed a lot. I'm now 34. I'm not the same in many ways, in the best ways. Who I was in my 20s, he met me at 29. I've evolved. I've changed a lot, right? I still have my same essence, my same joy, my same silliness and goofiness, but my desires are changing. I don't want to hustle like I did in my 20s. And that was the season I was in then. And so now it's me finding out kind of what I'm working through right now personally. It's like, what does that look like now? What is the next goal in addition to motherhood? And how do I integrate that into having a family. So I'm kind of, and again, if you would have told me this a few years ago, I'd say you're crazy, but I am craving more of a little bit like learning how to be a little bit more the supporter role because he is working more right now. And so I'm not the best at it because I never was it, because I never played the supporter role. I've always Yeah, and I want to admit it because I think it'd be lying if it was like, oh, we have it all figured out. And I think a lot of women, I mean, gosh, I know I'm not alone because I talk to hundreds and thousands of women a month, whether it's virtually or in person, and just having female community in person and online. There's a shift happening, and I think a lot of women are desiring doing things differently. And I certainly desired doing work differently than I did in my 20s, where it was coming from anxious energy, proving energy. I was broke energy, and it was very, I guess you could say, like intense. And now I'm almost like I'm settling into myself. And so I'm in more of like I want calm, I want balance, I want to do things I enjoy, don't want to be in that same season energy. I guess I'm coming into my feminine energy, I guess you could say. So we're trying to figure that out because they're both really passionate. And then I'm not like Susie Homemaker, but then I also want to be supportive to him. And so we're kind of always figuring out that balance. But for the first time, I actually like enjoy sometimes I enjoy that a little bit more now sometimes than working. Cause I don't know. It's just, I'm just changing and shifting a bit. So I'm trying to figure out I think we're trying to figure out our dance. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, I'm very comfortable with sort of like both of us doing our own thing and having our own thing, but that does leave, if you think of it in like 3 buckets, right? There's like my stuff, Angie's stuff, and then like the home is this sort of shared thing. I feel like to me, there's a certain amount of, hours, time, resources, etc. If one of us is going to really dial down work, that person should then pick up more of the slack around home. And that might mean just kind of leading the charge on organization, management, helpers, TaskRabbit, etc. I think it also goes to, it's funny, I didn't think I would be the one to bring this up on this call, but like love languages and things like that, like what people value. One of the things that we've spent a lot of time kind of working through and talking through is I love like cooking and I love like hosting Thanksgiving and cooking for people and whatever. And that's really never been part of Angie's. Like she likes when people come over and there happens to be food, but she doesn't like to be the host or even the co-host or even like noticing there's guests coming in and like, what can I get you guys to drink? And like making sure the table's set. She just wants to like have conversations and have the party. And so one of the ways, whether it's just me and her and I'm cooking breakfast for her, like she appreciates it, but you kind of see it a little bit as like, not valuing it in the way that someone who loves to cook or whatever, it like having acts of service or food made for her is not her love language. It's almost seen as like, I would have just grabbed turkey slices anyway. So what's the point of a perfectly cooked 3-course meal? And so that's been hard for us because I'm like, well, then you can have your turkey slices, but that means then I don't get to show love in the way that I want to or cook, for her. So we've been figuring that out too, because it's hard you can't say you should change your love language, but also like, I value that. So I'm sort of like, if I take 30 minutes to make us a really nice dinner at night, and then that's not appreciated anymore, then not making dinner that night, that's a tricky thing too.
Yeah, so. I'm sure this comes up a lot. I mean, there's a reason why this guy sold millions and millions of books. Love languages is really fascinating, right? Because he could do that and be like, wait, I'm giving love. Like, isn't this love? And then I'm like, man, I wish he would have just like looked me in the eyes today and been like, you're so pretty. And like, I just love you. And like cuddled me, like touch and talking to me or got me like a little spa day gift card or like these other love languages. But instead he's like, no, I'm going to make her this delicious meal and she's going to love it. And I do appreciate it. But I think it's just
you appreciate it in the way that you appreciate Uber Eats.
So love languages is something we're definitely learning. And that's part of a relationship is sometimes, taking a beat and like taking a breath and checking your ego and saying, okay, like, wait, how does he love to be loved? Because as much as it's very easy for me and I'm very good at this, I'm very, very good at words. So I could send him a beautiful text, or I tell him all the time, oh, you look so handsome today, or I love you. And I say that a lot. But then I'm like, wait, stop. Okay. Actually, what Clay would probably appreciate right now in this moment, like today, I was like taking out the trash, cleaning up the kitchen, we're organizing stuff with the garage, like starting the laundry, ordering groceries. Like I real quick was like writing this list of all these things that I just did this morning, because they're not super fun, but they were okay. But to me, it's like I'm now thinking through the lens of what would take stress off of Clay's plate, because that's really what makes Clay happy and make him feel supported. He likes when I say, oh, I love you, or you look nice today, whatever, but it's not like it's not enough almost. So I think we need to, I don't know. I think that's every relationship though, right? Everyone's always learning. And then the systems within that, back to like system sexy, like my friend Ari Mizell has this great framework around, it's like 3 things in order. Optimize, so eliminate the things you don't need to do. So silly example, but like if your email is overwhelming because you get too many newsletters, and like you never unsubscribed from Groupon that you subscribed to 7 years ago, like unsubscribe from Groupon, like stop it. Don't hire a VA to delete or archive that email, like unsubscribe. If you can stop it from happening, then automate with tools, with AI, whatever. Then you do auto program that, where it's like, I don't want to delete it, but automatically archive it so it doesn't hit the inbox. And then outsource is the last step, hire a human to help. So I think optimize, automate, outsource can be a framework for everything. For like, we've recently started hiring a woman, a friend of a friend, to come and do like, it's not exactly like meal prep, like, you know, making everything in Tupperware, but she does meal prep, like a bunch of different things throughout the week. Do whatever. And I love to cook, but I also love that gets done. And Angie like took the lead on that. So like, Angie may not like sit here and cook herself, but she's like, we want this done. I'm going to take it off Clay's plate. She found the woman, hired her, organized it all, got the groceries or whatever. And now the food has the fridge has great food in it. And we've got great healthy food all week because of Angie, even though she never turned on a burner. You know, I like organizing. I realize I like being I'm sure everyone listening to this is like, yeah, who does? I mean, maybe they won't like this. I like being the like organizer at the complete, I'll find the cleaner and then the cook, and like I like getting all the people and like organizing them, being the facilitator of it, because it feels similar to like I'm good at cultivating community and bringing people together. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna find this girl on TaskRabbit, and then she's gonna help me to organize the pantry. So I might not always be the one doing the thing, but I'm trying to, of course, still do that more. But I like running it in that way where I feel like things are going. So it's a part of my brain that I kind of actually like, and I've had to learn, but that's a good back to like combination of love languages and skills. No, I mean, you don't have to learn how to cook, but if I'm cooking a Thanksgiving dinner for 12 people, let's just make sure they have drinks. Like she found the woman to come over and organize the pantry, and the woman did an incredible job. And like, we want to tackle the garage. I like having an organized garage gym, my tools where I know where they are and everything else. When we moved into this house, we haven't had a chance to do that yet. But we tried it with Angie and I to do it together, and we lasted about 4.5 minutes, and we were about to kill each other because we have different modes of working like that. So like when you're organizing the garage, it's like a mass processing and organization. You can do detailed stuff later. Angie picks up one item, and she's like, we don't need this item. We should sell it. Maybe on Facebook Marketplace. I'm going to go in and start that. It's like one item, and her brain is down a different rabbit hole of processing that item in a different way. And I'm like, no, put that in the pile of create a pile of things we're going to sell, and move on. And that's one pile, and keep going with the garage. So we have different ways of working. So we're literally, she found the same woman who organized the pantry is going to work with me on organizing the garage, and Angie's not allowed to be here that day. Derail the process, but she added her skill of like finding this organized TaskRabbit person from which that woman works in the garage like I do, which is like boom, 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 organized, and it'll be done. And then at the end we can sell. So long story short, you can tell the biggest challenge, not challenge, I don't know if that's the word, but the biggest thing that we'll always probably have to work on in our relationship is, I mean, we don't have fun together. We know we have the same humor and personality, and like, you know, we can both speak on stage. We have a lot of similarities in how we see life and our values, and all of that's so easy, but it's the unsexy stuff that every couple has to work through, which is the day-to-day of how are we going to run a home and how do we keep things organized. You know, I'm an ADD neurodivergent girly with a lot of weird energy, and I'm calming down a little bit as I get older, but this guy who loves Excel spreadsheets somehow fell in love with me. So it's like, he's my greatest teacher too. Like he really is. If I was with me in male form, I would probably be in a van somewhere, you know, like it'd be a fun van. It'd be a fun van. We'd be a band. We'd like start a band and start partying around the country. But he's like really shown me, and he's also older. So like, it's been so interesting to take it as like, okay, can I see this as a lesson and a teacher? And like, he's making me a better person, like a more efficient, organized, responsible adult, even though the part of me doesn't ever want to grow up and won't. But that's been the biggest thing I think we've always
I think what you realized is like creativity can thrive within structure. I think initially when we started dating, you were like, you would see me being maybe more organized or more structured or whatever, and less sort of bounce off the walls crazy. And then what you realized is like your events are a good example. Angie just threw this incredible event here at Kuya, 100 women, sold out like well ahead of time. And overall, it was done really, really well. You did an amazing job, but because the organization level was 80%, there was a bunch of details scrambling at the last minute, et cetera, that created stress and cortisol and everything on you. Yeah. What you would have loved in the 30 minutes leading up to it was just to be upstairs with candle and like chill, calm, relaxed, and then go take the stage and be your fun, crazy self. Those things like that, when Angie was the only person who could do or answer certain questions or know where certain things are or whatever, it wasn't fully outsourced, which created stress for you, which was in the beginning. You got through it, and once you were on stage, you were great. But like, that was, sometimes it's like I can try to help, but you almost have to experience the pain of lack of organization. But then now she'll like, I texted her something and she's like, put that in Slack. And I was like, yes, I got it in Slack. She's like, that was a huge win for me, because you see Slack as like, my ADD brain knows that all of that, those types of tasks are in one place so that I can be. So it's not the constraints make you less creative. The constraints actually make you more creative.
Sorry for that TED Talk. We just gave it you guys.
It's all good.
No, it's great. A lot of the things that you guys are saying is something that we see, like we've seen in our own relationship. We see with a ton of couples that we work with, but there's typically a lot of overlap between the two individuals, but there's also differences. And I think in the beginning, the differences are very sexy. They're very attractive. But then as time goes on, those differences become a tension point, because now we approach things differently. We have different perspectives. Everything is viewed through a different lens. We solve problems differently. We want to approach a situation differently. And over time, those differences start to become like those little tiny things that drive us nuts. Versus we've learned, I learned a concept a long time ago called ecosystems, where if you hear or you see something in your partner that drives you crazy, it's typically the same skill set that they exemplify in a different area of life that you also love. So like an example of it is like, one of the things that Kyle does is, I don't know if this is a man thing or not, but Kyle will leave the kitchen cabinets open. Like he'll like open it, get something out of it, and like just leave it open. And for a while, it would drove me crazy. I'm like, why can't you just shut the cabinet? But then I'm like, but usually when he's getting something out of the cabinet, it's also because he gets distracted by like an idea or something he wants to go create. So he goes and does that. And that's the side that I love. And so what you guys are touching on is the way that those differences not only grow each other as individuals, but also are probably a lot of the reasons why you were drawn to each other in the very beginning. So.
Yeah, I've been listening to a lot of, which you guys will love. This is very on brand with your niche, but I've been listening to a lot of different books about marriage. And I started this YouTube channel I watch called Happy Wife School. And I'm just, it's an area of life that we put so much effort into health and wellness and into careers and how to scale and email lists and how to speak on stage and all these other things that I've researched obsessively over the last 5-10 years because I was into it. But when did I ever stop to say, what is it like to actually be a good wife and partner? My mom didn't give me notes. Nobody told me. And so you have to actively go out there and say, this is a part of my life I want to learn and get better at. And one of the biggest things they talk about in all these books, even though I'm like on my walks listening and I'm like, so it's always like chapter 1, grace. And you're like, I'm going to kill this lady, like, shut up. But they're always like, your partner is going to drive you crazy. Have grace. And, it sounds cheesy and it is such a cheesy word, but also it's really true. Like basically what you're explaining is grace. And what the word grace really is rooted in is like taking a beat and saying, okay, his brain works so different. And then him, I know it's harder with me, but like saying, why would Angie put this like this? Or why would Angie do this way? Okay, she obviously her intention is not like ill intent. Like what was she thinking when she did it this way? And so I think grace is one of the biggest secrets.
And there's some puzzles you never figure out. Like, why does she open a bag of chips with a shotgun? I don't know why.
I have to rip them open, like a wild animal.
Like a bag of potato chips. Why is there literally a hole in the top half, but all the way through, not the corner where it says here, Or I put a drawer full of scissors here and I'm like, please just clip the corner off. Shotgun.
So a tip for that, look at me giving a tip on this, even though this is not my niche, but a tip for that is, okay, when Kyle does that and he leaves all the doors open, okay, and you're like, what the God, are you serious, bro? Like, it takes 5 seconds, like, just close it, this is what you do. So they say to gamify or play with this energy, right? This frustration. So what you can do is like leave a sticky note from Mr. Cabinet, okay? You're gonna write, hi, Mr. Cabinet, I'm really sad. I really want to be close because I'm really cold in here. Can you, make a game out of it. So then when he sees it, he's like, oh, that's kind of funny. And he'll always remember it. So I did that once with Clay's socks because I read about this in this audiobook I'm listening to about marriage. And she said she would put sticky notes on the socks. I'd be like, Mr. Sock is really sad. Like, he really wants to meet his partner. Like, why is he always on the cold floor? It sounds childish, but honestly, these are little things we should have learned as a kid of how to communicate in a healthier way versus and then you're screaming at each other and you're mad because the laundry represents that your life is chaotic. And then you're mad that we all know it's not about the sock. It's about you think your life is chaotic and you're not in control of anything. Right. So, but the sock is the item that represents chaoticness and not feeling safe and stable. That's truly always what it is. So I don't know. We've done that a little bit. I think we're good at that.
I think that's
sometimes we're good at like making a game out of what we're kind of mad at. Like, we'll do like a funny little voice and I'll be like, maybe you should clean this up. Yeah. Instead of yelling, like, you suck. Why don't you clean this up?
Yeah. Everything has a home little stupid little. It sounds like a lame corporate commercial jingle, but just the fact that it's not a serious thing and it's this silly song or whatever. If I leave something out or if Angie does, it's like everything has. It's like a song, but you're saying it to the person in a nice way, and you're like, oh yeah, right.
Yeah. I mean, this is like all so real. You guys are getting the real deal. I've leaned more towards being selfish in relationships in the past. I was more of the I, and Clay is more of the we. Right? There's always like an I and a we person, and so that's my work is continuously saying like, wait, actually, what would make him happier in this moment? Or how could this help both of us or the team? Or seeing it as we, and these are our things and our house and our stuff, not like, well, this would make me happy right now. And so I think when you lean a little bit more selfish, your work is always to think about the unit. And then the we person sometimes a little bit more is like, trying to keep their own self too in it, not losing themselves in it. So I don't know. I think that'll always be our work. Right. I think like any couple, it's like you're constantly working on this stuff.
Yeah.
Living with another person is life's greatest adventure.
Absolutely.
And your relationship is typically like the greatest form of personal development. And then you couple that with running businesses. And now y'all are just on a personal development speedway.
Mm-hmm. And I would also say too, like one of the things I've noticed, and maybe I'm sure you two have noticed as well, is that yes, these differences exist, but they're actually like gifts. It's almost the way that I've recognized my differences between Ariel and myself, because we're wired very differently, similar to you guys, but probably reversed.
Probably flipped.
I think I'm more like Angie, and I think Ariel's a little bit more like you, Clay. So what I've come to realize though is that even though Ariel comes from a much more organized perspective, and I might come from a spontaneous creative perspective, we've started to recognize that those are actually gifts, because when we are making decisions in life, which every couple has to do, it's really helpful to have an objective perspective, not just see things through our own lens. So for me, I've learned to just accept it. Like, I'm actually so happy she thinks differently than me. Yeah. I'm so happy she approaches life differently than me, because I would just see things through my own lens, have a lot of creative ideas every single day, probably go a million miles an hour in any direction that I feel just like inspired to go in today, and might have 40 different businesses by the time we hang up today. So if that's one direction, whereas Ariel has so much staying power in business, so much commitment, and we're able to combine forces to usually make both the most efficient and accurate decision. Yeah. Is that something you guys have recognized as well?
Yeah. I mean, I hope that I'm a teacher for Clay as well. I hope I'm a wise, younger grasshopper for him. Or wait, I'm the Messiah. You're the grasshopper, whatever. But
you're the granny, right?
Yeah, I'm the granny Messiah. Yeah. As much as it's like the moments where we're angry at each other, that this isn't easy to say, but it is true. He really has been a teacher. I think about that sometimes. I'm like, wow, like if I was with someone totally different right now, would I have grown in these areas? And it sounds a little woo, whether the people listening, you believe in God or universe or whatever you believe in, but I think that the person that you choose or attract, I think there is a reason. I don't think it's just by chance. And so I think that my soul, for some reason, was... Of course, my playful young soul is like, I am going to find someone who is going to teach me these things that I'm not good at. And as much as it's like, well, why? It would have been so much easier to just be with me in male form, and we could just fart around together. But you know, this is what I chose. So, but
Right.
Clay's also really like silly and crazy and farts around too. He's not like serious. He's just a little bit more organized.
Only
so.
one of us has done more actual stand-up
Yeah,
comedy
he's done
than-
stand-up comedy. He's very funny. He's more like witty, sarcastic funny. But yeah, I mean, and of course your soul chose me because
Yeah.
I'm never gonna let you grow up, even though
Yeah.
you know.
Well,
I'm older chronologically. Angie's older, like
Yes.
baby grandma style. Like I'm the one playing pickleball for 3 hours, going to comedy late at night or whatever.
yeah,
She's like, don't wake me up when you come home at night.
yeah. He was out at comedy last night, and I'm asleep, so I don't know what he was doing out there, but you know, whatever. Living his best life.
Well, since you guys brought that up, I do want to touch on that because there is a belief out there with a lot of entrepreneur couples that just every single day is a grind and there's not a lot of time left over to actually have fun with each other. But you two are living examples that the opposite is true. Both of you are very successful. Like, honestly, like it's no small feat to build multi-million-dollar companies.
Yeah.
It's just not. Like that's something that the 1% of the 1% do. And you've done it. And yet you still find ways to have fun with each other. So I would love to ask you guys, what do you do to still have fun with each other and maintain a sense of play and joy, even as you're growing these companies and have all these responsibilities on your shoulders?
Yeah.
I think it's really simple. I think you have to for a job and they come home at 6:30 and had a long day and they hate it, and then there's just like all there's energy left to do is to have meal, you know, have dinner, veg out, and collapse. Like it's the job and them hating their job that means there's no energy and time left for having fun. It's not like the strategic tactical, like which movie do we see on date night. I think it's the fact that we both love what we do so much that the blend of then having fun with each other is natural because our bodies and energy are not depleted from the work that we do.
But I think we have I think Clay is really good at, which I don't know, he's just learned this somehow. He probably grew up with more discipline, so maybe he just knows how to compartmentalize like work and play. He's really good. Like he works a lot, and when he's working, and he's like in the zone. And then when Clay is not, he's not. And like Clay's gonna work, you know, today, and then he's gonna go play pickleball. Like he somehow he works hard, he plays hard, and that's just like who he is. And I think that he also somehow makes time for social life and showing up for friends. And we have a huge social life, so I think that's really helped where we have a lot of friends. We have a lot of couple friends. So there's always something fun going on. And part of the reason why we moved here to a city that has that. And so that would be a huge part of our fun and our play is that we're with people playing pickleball or going to their parties or their events or their celebrations. And so that's a huge part of play for us. I think we're doing better at actually like just us two doing things together now. Cause I always said this to him once. I'm like, do you realize we're like, a lot of time we're with other people. It's never just like us alone. We're always with other people, which is fine and really fun. And I think couples need that too. I think you can't always just be together because then you're just like on each other's throats all the time. You need other friends to hang out with. So yeah, I think it's built into our lifestyle here in Austin.
Yeah.
And I think you're always thinking of like, hey, here's a movie I want to go see, or hey, here's a comedy show, or hey, do you want to go play at this thing? Or like, here's this event going on in Austin. So Clay always is on the pulse of like something to do because again, he's the extrovert who wants to get out of the house and do things. Yeah. And so I think that part of our relationship is the easiest part is like the social life. And
I've been in plenty of relationships where it's like you worry about the other person and their calendar and their schedule and what are they going to do and whatever. And then if you like, as soon as I feel guilty going to like play pickleball, get outside, vitamin D, move my body, whatever, like I can't feel guilty about going to do that. It goes back to like scheduling and how do we fill her cup and make sure that gets like the date night and stuff that she wants and we spend time together. But if I think about just the other night, like, you know, Angie's brother, Mike, who's here right now, they have Soul Wellness together. Through that, Mike is in a pickleball league called Founders League downtown. His partner for that is traveling. So I'm subbing for that. So we were down there at Millbrook playing pickleball. There's 100 other people there. It was like the playoffs, the final night, and they make a big event out of it. And then Angie came. She doesn't normally come to watch me play pickleball. You know, it's not that exciting. And that's like my thing.
It's riveting.
And that's my thing. But I was in the playoffs playing with her brother, and the event is 100 other people. And we knew that some of our mutual friends were going to be there. So we went there, we hung out. And then after an hour and a half, Angie and Mike went back to their place. I stayed for another 30, 45 minutes, but I was like talking with friends, but also making business connections. And I might play pickleball with that guy, but I might do business with him as well. And it's just part of it's the community we're in. And then part of it's our personalities that we can flow in and out of, like, you know, going to play pickleball might be just a pickleball game, or it might result in a business partnership or whatever. And that's just part of it is our personalities, but part of it is the magic of Austin right now is kind of having this moment where like, there's just so many people here.
Yeah. It seems like you guys have kind of really figured out the integration, like how to integrate those things in a way that they don't have to necessarily be separate, but you can kind of like weave them into each other in a seamless way. I just want to kind of end here with where we are. Thank you guys so much for the wisdom that you've provided. If people wanted to connect with you, follow along on your journey, where would they find you?
Yeah, you guys can find me at Angie Lee Show on Instagram, and then check out soulgetsoul.com if you want to get some gummies.
And I am just Clay Hebert everywhere on the internet. It's Hebert.
Yes,
awesome.
I had to practice his last name a couple of times.
You nailed it.
You nailed it.
Yes.
Perfect.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that. I know you guys have maybe about 30 seconds left, but if I could, I would love to just get your one sentence quick cut answer to this last question. You ready?
Sure.
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire.
I know, I feel like we could do this for hours with you guys.
I know, right?
We're not usually asked these things, so it's kind of very interesting.
That's great.
Yeah.
That was our goal, is to ask questions that maybe you haven't been asked before. So here's the last question. If you were to walk on stage to a crowd full of only entrepreneur couples and you could just give them one piece of advice, what would that be?
Oh, do they work together or separately, or it doesn't matter, right?
Both are entrepreneurs, so either one.
Oh, I love it.
Yes, let's go.
And this is something that coincides and complements what Clay has called the perfect calendar. And when we first met, I remember thinking like, it's cool, but like now I really get it, because he's lived more life and he realizes how important it is. It's one thing to love what you do. Yes. And the whole point of it is to then create a lifestyle that you love around that and be able to live the life you want. Because if you're working all the time, but you hate it, and or you're just working all the time, but you never have time to health, wellness, family, these other values, then what are you really doing? So I think the number one thing is define what success and fulfillment is to you guys. Because to some people, fulfillment might be, you know, on yachts all day or doing this, or, you know, who knows what their definition of fulfillment is. You guys, your definition of fulfillment is going to be different than ours. So I think define what is enough and what is fulfillment. Because if not, I think you're going to constantly be on the rat race of more money, bigger house, bigger cars. It'll never end unless you say, what do we define as in this season of life? What is success to us, or what is fulfillment to us? And I think that's something we're always working on now. But I feel like that's really important. Enough people don't do that. They just say like, keep making more money and keep grinding and keep going. And it's like, well, what is happiness to you guys?
Yeah.
Don't you agree that's important?
Yeah. I mean, that's
because
why
there's maybe couples that make less, but they both love the job more. Maybe they're happier. Who knows? There's so many different situations where you could be happy.
Yeah. There's quite a bit of data that beyond a certain point, happiness and income are not correlated once you're beyond a certain point. And yeah, that's why I created the perfect calendar exercise, which is a fairly simple, straightforward exercise, but it just gives people the opportunity to completely clear out their calendar and then put back on there what they need to do for sure, but what they want to do and what they love to do. And I've done it hundreds of times with people, and there's always enough time, and the people are shocked that there's enough time in their Google Calendar to do everything that they want to do, because you know what people don't put on there? Scrolling Instagram for 2.5 hours a day, you know, and there's enough time to work, personal, family, life, etc. But I think that's what we would say on stage is co-define that together, because for some people that's traveling to Europe for a week with your partner. For some people that's a date night a week or whatever. Put it all on there. But it's also, I've done it a few times where with couples, and it's a very interesting conversation, because he's like, all right, here's what we want. And then he says what we want. And she goes, you got a mouse in your pocket? Like, what do you mean speaking for? So it's a really good thing to like get aligned if you disagree, And then once you're aligned, then it's just like, hey, that's not really part of our perfect calendar. Let's do this more. Let's get to that European vacation or whatever you agree on. So yeah, just define your calendar. Like, it's not so much about tools or productivity or invoicing or business. It's like, what do you want to do? And define that calendar.
Yeah, I love
so
that.
good.
Yeah, we have one life to live, 24 hours in a day, and we get to choose how we use it and define what means success to us.
Yeah.
Not just as an individual, but as a couple as well.
Yeah.
Both of us getting what we want. And I love that so much. So guys, thank you so much.
Yeah.
We can talk to you forever. Honestly, I feel like we're just getting started.
We'll do a part two.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you two have been a wonderful example that you don't have to choose between having a successful business or a successful relationship. You can have both. And you can have multiple successful businesses within a successful relationship. Yeah. So thank you and everybody watching and listening for being examples of that in a world that so desperately needs it. And until next time, we will see you in the next episode of the Couplepreneurs Show.
Bye, y'all. Thank you.